Hi, this is Matt from Audio Plugin Deals. Today we're looking at Prestige Racks from NoiseAsh. Let's have a look at it. Prestige Racks is essentially a fully featured channel strip featuring 7 individual modules. As you can see on screen, I have them all visible, but let's just hide them and I'll go through them one by one. So we can disable, like so, clicking this little X at the top here. And that's true for all these 6 modules in the middle. The right hand section is however fixed, and that's because this is the master panel. So let's go back to our modules. Let's open them up one by one. So here we have this Satura amplifier. Let's turn that on. Now this is a tube preamp, and one of the best bits about this plugin actually is that all the features in every module are quite common, so there isn't really that much explanation required, which means I can quickly breeze through the modules and then we'll get on to some sound examples. So the big knob obviously up here is the drive, and then we have the option to increase the even harmonics with this dial here, and then below that we have 2 types of saturation. So type 1 is really mid-focused, warm saturation, whereas type 2 really focuses on the high end and gives some really nice clarity. And then below that we can switch on the filters, so you have a high pass and obviously a low pass, and then you have the output for gain staging into the next module. Next we have a channel strip compressor, and this is based on a very famous British console. I'm almost certain you know which one that is. So like I said a few minutes ago, most of these features you're probably already familiar with. It does have a sidechain filter in the middle here with this little screw switch. And then we also have a dry wet knob as well, which is very handy. Moving on to the tamer, which is labeled as a de-esser, however it goes much further than that. You can obviously use it as such, but the flexibility is there should you wish. So for example, the frequency range goes all the way from 100 Hz all the way up to 8K. And then below that we have the options for a bell cut and then low and high adjustment also. So you can really focus on any nasty frequencies that you don't want or anything you want to remove from the mix is very possible with this tamer module. Then next up we have the Medley EQ, which is essentially a hybrid EQ that combines the best sections of 5 classic EQs into one module. So for example, the lows feature the Realtek algorithm, also from NoiseAsh, and if I say Realtek, you probably know what that refers to. The mids are from a very famous American console, and if you look at the blue color here, that might be a hint to what that's modeled after. And then the highs are from the Need 84 algorithm, also from NoiseAsh. And if I say Need, you'll probably once again guess where that's coming from. And then above that, we have basically the airband, which here is called Sky. Then moving on to the delay, and the delay features one of the most important features of this whole plugin, and that is the ducking feature. So the rest of this module is quite self-explanatory. If you're familiar with any other delay unit, you can switch it from clock synced to milliseconds, and then you can adjust the times independently for the left and right channels should you wish. Same as the feedback, but it does, like I said, feature a ducking feature. And basically this is used to duck the wet delay signal out of the way of the dry. So it's very easy when you're applying delay to basically smother the dry signal, and then basically you have to move it down. You have to adjust the dry signal to compensate, but often it doesn't lead to the effect you want. You want quite a lot of delay, but you want the original sound to be intact. So with this, we can keep the dry mix quite high and then increase the ducking amount and also the time it takes to move out of the way for the dry signal. And then moving on finally to the reverb, and here we have 2 types. We have plate and room, selectable with this switch here, and then on each we have 10 different variants, with essentially the length of the room or length of the plate determined by the variant here. So obviously 10 is longer than 1. We also have a pre-delay option, which is incredibly useful. Then we have some basic EQ for the reverb, filters below that, and then once again, an incredibly useful duck feature. Now, as I'm sure you expect, it is possible to move these modules around. So should we wish to move the reverb right up in the chain, we can simply drag it across. And one thing I will say as well, it's incredibly smooth to move these modules around. Some of the ones I've tried in the past are often quite laggy. These ones are immediate. And then on to the right, we have 2 additional modules. So we have the gate, and then we have the opto compressor. Now be aware the gate is the very first effect in the chain. Despite being in this master panel at the end here, the input always goes to the gate first, and then it goes to module 1, and then through to the end here, before coming back into the master panel. The opto compressor, however, can either be at the start or the end, and that is determined by this pre and post switch here. So if it's pre, then the signal chain is gate, opto compressor, and then module 1 through to 6 here. Or if we choose post, then the signal chain is still gate first, then to the modules, and then back to the opto compressor here. So really quite a lot of flexibility there. And then just to round off the interface, we have a phase switch here. We can add some console noise by this analog button here, and then obviously the output level. Below that we have the input level for gain staging into the plugin. We have a stereo width, so we can get all the way from mono to 200%. And then to the very far right, we have the final output level of the module. To be honest, I think I would just leave it at Unity here, and then I could adjust it here. That's basically how I would operate. So without further ado, let's hear it, shall we? So let's return the plugin back to the default, just because the initialized preset have the modules in quite a logical order, that it's much easier to start off with. And first up, we have this drum loop. So it's sounding quite good already, but let's see what we can do. Let's beef it up some, shall we? First, we're going to start with the Satura amplifier and add a bit of grit to that. I think I like type 1 better for this. Let's now move into the channel strip, add a bit of compression. Slam it, see what happens. Too much, obviously. Let's put it back to something reasonable. Next we have the tamer. Now there isn't much in this that I want to pull out, but let's see what we can do. Let's play with it nonetheless. So let's focus on, let's look at around 300. Let's increase the amount that we're reducing. Let's have a listen pre and post. I think that adds a bit more clarity. We can solo this. Or maybe just back it off just a little bit, shall we? There we go. Next up we have the EQ. Let's maybe bring out some of the upper mids. We can switch it to full parametric mode by clicking the US button here. Then with the low end, let's do the classic Pultec trick of adding and boosting the same frequency range. Around just pops out quite a lot more. Let's go back and we're going to initialize again. And this time we have a vocal loop.
Better for you.
Now the previous example for the drum loop, I didn't use the delay or reverb. There isn't much need for that. But let's however use the delay and the reverb on this vocal channel now. Let's just start with the delay.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
And honestly, straight out of the box, it sounds good.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
Let's turn the mix quite up, 50%.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
So as you can hear, and as we would expect, the original is really drowning in that reverb. So let's increase the duck amount.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
Now you should be able to hear that already, but just in case you can't and you don't know what you should be listening for, the original, the dry signal, should be very clean, and then once that dry signal ends, then the delay will sweep in. The time it takes for that delay to come in is adjusted by this duck time here. So I'll play this back and listen for the dry signal, then the delay signal to come in after.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
Let's reduce the time.
Better for you. Better for you.
So it comes in immediately.
Better for you. Better for you.
Or let's increase it.
Better for you. Better for you.
It's a long time for it to come in.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you. Better for.
And just remember, we're at 50% reverb here, and it's still sounding incredibly clean. But let's back it down a bit. Let's go something more realistic, around 33%. We'll reduce the duck time and also the duck amount.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
Now let's move over to the reverb, and let's keep it on plate for now.
Better for you. 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 Better for you.
Let's move over to room, and we'll increase the decay.
Better for you. 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 Better for you.
Obviously way overdoing it with the size. Let's turn this down.
Better for you. Better for you. Better for you. Better for you.
Really nice. That is sounding excellent in my view. Next we have this guitar loop. Let's put this on a room mode. Give it a bit of compression coming in. Not much. Just to take off the slight few peaks. Let's add a bit of saturation to it. This one we'll use the Type 2. Here we're not doing much compression because it's already done at the input stage with the opto. We can, if we want, increase that just a bit. Let's have a listen to it dry. So you've got that warble in the sound, in the original sound. But now when we turn this on, it really brings up that warble. Let's add some EQ now. On the mids. And just a bit of air as well on this. Really nice. You'd be able to mix an entire song with one of these just on each individual channel, and it would sound amazing. And considering the price that's currently available on audio plugin deals, frankly, I think that it's an absolute no-brainer. So thanks for watching. I'm going to be back soon with something else. We'll see you then. Bye.